welcome back. And I welcome all of you, ladies and gentlemen, to the month of June. Now, there's two things really I wanted to say this evening, and they're very comprehensive and they're pretty long things I want to talk about. So I'm actually going to split these into two videos. So if you're interested, then make sure. Also, if you're not particularly interested in more, let's say, the social climb, or rather what a lot has been said about the LGBTQ community, then I implore you all to please skip. And also note that I say LGBTQ, and it's only because I think it's like LGBTQTIA plus community. I generally don't know if that's 100% true, but I'm just going with LGBT and just to simplify it, but you could probably hazard a guess about what I'm including and all that. That's just, again, if there's any... I'm going to open this up with something you will almost never see a politician do nowadays. Beware of my partisanship. My mistakes are facts, and they can only inevitably be dissolved by only seeing only one corner of events. And please take notice when you hear anybody else make any such discussion of this nature throughout the 21st century. So thank you. Now, where were we? Ah yes, the month of June. Now it is euphemistically being referred to as Pride Month. This is, among many other things, when they say love is in the air, when corporate businesses, they actually change a lot of their profiles, whether it's on social media, to include the rainbow flag in their background. And it's actually a pretty good business model, although but the problem, okay, anybody who knows this will know immediately about things like corporate panding, and because they know as the second it strikes midnight and July rolls around, all gone in 1 second, which unfortunately does say quite a lot about these businesses, because unfortunately, and I know maybe in some ways their intentions are right, but that can only best be deciphered by the fact when you've got to take into consideration that the only reason why they do it is because businesses want to look modern, they want to look appealing. They want their PR to be as crisp and identifiable, and they want to build a great reputation no matter what happens. So the second a company's image starts being thrown into question is when you know changes are going to be brought about. Now, with that being said, this is not always the case, but it certainly, I think it certainly matters when it's like VW or Lloyd's or TSB or or maybe something like Adidas or Nike. I think it certainly matters to them how they look, and the case in point in all of this is that they want to look as well considerably modern, because in this day and age, ladies and gentlemen, I can tell you back to 2014, I believe it was, when gay marriage was legally passed in this country. So we're coming up to nearly the 10-year anniversary, which is it's as far as I know, it's been the only real good highlight during David Cameron's tenure as Prime Minister, but unfortunately it doesn't outshine literally all of the other bad things he got us involved in. So, you know, every cloud and all that. But here's something I kind of want something that's sort of been a little bit on my mind a little bit to say this. I just didn't really know the words really of how to say this, which is basically, whenever you're going to do a conversation of this matter, it's very, very important. You've got to choose your words very, very carefully. Something, again, that doesn't quite seem the sort of thing that most politicians do, at least those who know fine well about things like image as well. Because it's mostly by what they do say as opposed to what they don't that counts. So I'll just come out and say this. Fitting that, isn't it, you know? You hear a lot of talk about protecting women's rights, protecting the rights of trans people, trying to put a couple of months ago there was discussions about trying to pass a bill about trans people in Scotland that which was just basically some very clever political game, because there was no way it could be that sort of legislation could have been passed by the SN by the I think it was the SNP or whoever. Well, it probably had to have been the SNP. So you've got all this going on, and it only made me seriously think about something, especially when it comes to the LGBT community in politics, because politically, members of the LGBT community, or maybe not even people who are part of that community, but are homosexual, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, asexual, even if they're not technically members of that community, politically, their position is very, very powerful, and it's very, very strong. And it's based on something it's based on, in my opinion, two fundamentals. The second one of them, and I'm doing it for this way, because the second is, it's actually something that we can all identify as, and it's something that actually strikes a chord with everybody who identifies with this problem, and that is identity. I mean, and I'm dead serious about this, because think about this for a second. It makes sense that people in that position, people who are gay, people who are lesbian, people who are transgender, that it is a part of their identity. It is a part of who they are. And when you add this into the political element, it actually, you can almost say that they stand a lot more for what they believe in than perhaps maybe many people who sit in during Prime Minister's questions, or even those who frequently sit in the audience during Newsnight, or question time for that matter. Which is actually, you don't quite understand how important that all sounds, because I think, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm dead serious about this, whether you want to start talking about politics, or you want to start talking about things you are extraordinarily passionate about, it's got to come from you. And you could maybe rehearse poetry, maybe you could recite something by Lincoln, or again, you see that green book up there? That's my collection of 20th century poetry. Things like, Wilfred Owen, Bates, Butler, Philip Larkin. I mean, again, I could literally pull it out right now, but the case I want to make is that it almost always comes down to my second golden rule. Whenever you want to talk about politics, you have got to have your say. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that I will take that commandment to my grave if I have to. That you have got to have your say. And who is it? Whose right is it? Is it my right? Is it your right? Is it your MP's right? Is it the MP who lives on the other side of the country? Who's to say we are right to start saying that people cannot have their opinions when there are not even so much citizens of this country, but citizens of this planet? And again, who's to say what gives us the right to suddenly start saying that they are denied these of their opinions because of who they are? And now you begin to sort of see the necessary qualms about the identity problem. It's not so much really the identity problem, it's the identity reality. The reality, ladies and gentlemen, is that they are citizens. Whether you're from this country or from any other country, the point is that it is a part of who they are, and who on earth are we to start saying what people can and cannot say? Again, you hear this so much in the newspapers and in the press about things like it was even something that was written on the front of the Daily Mail just a few days ago about a trans activist from Oxford. I think it was from Oxford University. I don't know specifically which university from Oxford they said he was from, but he was like escorted by free security. It might have been for like speaking on behalf of women's rights and stuff like that. And then they obviously, in fact, I'll tell you what, I've got a better idea. I'm gonna pull it up right now because let's see. It was only a few days ago as well. Here it is. Wednesday, but it was just yesterday as well. That's kind of interesting. Academic at Oxford Union with 3 bodyguards, price of free speech in Britain. And Professor Kathleen Stock, site circled, arrives yesterday. Now the problem is that you can see right there, say Daily Mail standing up for free speech, and I let this out yesterday as well, ladies and gentlemen, on a YouTube post, is that about that same headline, is that one, if the Daily Mail the only times you ever see the Daily Mail ever talking about freedom of speech, it is only because they can use it to their advantage when they think of anything resembling a threat to their own liberty, when it is only obeying the very rules of democracy. You see, anything revolving around, women's rights or trans or anything that the Daily Mail does not agree with, they will dirty it as much as humanly possible. I can guarantee you, ladies and gentlemen, because it was Jeremy Corbyn's birthday a few days ago, and he even shared a picture of him with a picket saying, we're down with apartheid in South Africa, and he was being escorted away by the police. I don't know whether or not the Daily Mail specifically wrote an article about this sort of thing, but I think it probably would, because the idea of apartheid no doubt probably suited their interest. The Daily Mail is a newspaper that supported the Nazis, remember, ladies and gentlemen, and even though it's been 90 years, that sort of thing is, well, as you can might imagine, unforgivable. And now this is the same, and that sort of mentality is now starting to tell us about the freedom of speech in Britain. Well, you know what? I'm saying my speech. I'm having my freedom of speech. I'm saying it right now, and I'm standing on behalf of those who don't have that voice. I'm standing up for those who, again, as part of our conversation, those who maybe have yet to come out as gay through things like, if their family was to disown them, for example, it's usually quite up there for reasons about why people don't come out as gay, among other things about being attacked because of religious suppression, for example, where would almost excommunicate. Well, maybe not so much in this country about excommunication, but especially in the Middle East, it would, or even in Africa, for example, it would nigh on be a death sentence for things like that. I've seen too much. I watched that documentary a number of years ago when Stephen Fry was, I believe, in either Kenya, Nigeria, or it might have been, I don't think it was Somalia, and it's almost too graphic and upsetting for words, because Stephen Fry is actually a pretty solid, tough man. But yeah, you can even see me getting I'm obviously quite taken aback by thinking about it, and yeah. Oh, and by the way, just one more thing I want to point out. If I could just open this up again. Professor Kathleen Stock circled arrives yesterday, and you'll notice as well that the Daily Mail have took the honour of having to distinguish exactly who Miss Stock is by putting a red circle around her, because, and I've said it before, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll say it again, there is nothing more than a right-wing newspaper loves more than dragging a woman's name through mud. And that is by literally circling her as though she were el numero uno, their number one public enemy, because they stood for one right or another. And it's, again, the problem I always kind of, and again, this is the sort of thing, you hear J.K. Rowling, go on about how women get treated for when they speak out about anything against this. And why has nobody ever mentioned the fact that, for the rights and wrongs about J.K. Rowling, and again, you could always do like a very pro versus con list regarding, J.K. Rowling's stance about this sort of thing. But at the same time, I kind of just want to say to the world, for fuck's sake, what does anybody actually hope to get out of all this? You know what? Is there absolutely no way we could just sort this out like mature, civilized adults? Is there absolutely no way we can just do this properly? Because this is honestly what I think, ladies and gentlemen. I think that we could just cut this, we could pack it in right now and literally just talk about it, and we would actually reach some level of understanding and some level of there's ways we could solve this like immediately and stuff like that. And bearing in mind as well, I'm not saying, of course, all people from, the LGBTQ plus community are perfect or saints or souls or anything like that. In the same way that, not all women and not all men are saints. And you know what? But again, it's whenever it comes to like, and then people take sides and then they powder themselves up and pretending, they hold the corner on all virtue and love, when they're clearly not, and as though they don't do bad things or they don't do things that suppress people throughout the ages and stuff like that. And the second and the number one thing as well, apart from identity, is love. Is it and again, coming from a Roman Catholic here, ladies and gentlemen, is it not right and just to let people live and let live? You know what? What's it got to do with me about whether or not a woman loves a woman or a man loves another man? What's that got to do with me? Nothing. And it's the old adage about the simplest solutions are the most sound. Well, there it is. I can almost say right now I've almost solved the entire this entire whole transphobic homophobic this slanderous talk by just like that. Why is it my business, or why do you try to get me involved, or why do you try and irk me into taking a stance when whether two people's kinship or companionship has got absolutely nothing to do with me? What's the point in it? Again, that's the thing I need. That's the thing I think like a lot of people on social media kind of need to get to speed very, very quickly. When you start making these sorts of things public and you almost start like romanticizing or villainizing or when it, for example, for things like Philip Schofield, for example, they almost send that it's almost to the sort of mania and frenzy you see a lot of American journalists and broadcasters like the Fox Network or CBS or NBC or stuff like that. They always pride themselves on taking stances and getting charged with like fiery debates over huge scandals revolving around Republicans who say that children should be working, or some desultory scandal about actors who go completely off the rails. I mean, I was just old enough to see the horrifying mental breakdown of actors like Charlie Sheen, for example. In fact, I think it's almost coming up to the anniversary of the very last episode of 2.5 Men. I heard that the show just kind of almost spiraled out of control when they killed off Charlie Sheen's character and they brought in Ashton Kutcher, of all people. I don't know. I have not seen Two and a Half Men for nearly 14 years. So again, whatever it was like, I can only hazard a guess, unfortunately. But again, these sorts of things, they almost take away from the whole idea about like things like love, and you wonder exactly how much love really goes into like corporate businesses when they put up, the rainbow flag in the background, or throughout all the years when I was at university and they hang flags representing, things like the flag for people who are transgender, and for those who are asexual, and for those who are just the rainbow flag, and those who identified as, bisexual, and every other flag in question. But unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, you do not solve the question of hatred by just hanging flags from the student union. If you really want to tackle the question about hatred, then maybe we should start talking about the hatred that is each and every one of us. And yes, we all have hatred inside us, ladies and gentlemen. It is irrational, it is inhumane, it is just something that almost happens spontaneously. It's almost as erratic and as intermittent and almost non-discriminate as cancer. It's not biologically engineered into us to get cancer. It's just one of those sort of things that happens sometimes. And I think it's a very similar thing with hatred. It doesn't, even though, yes, we do experience things like anger and hatred, grief, envy, all those sorts of things, it doesn't feel good to be stewing in this hatred, or in bitterness, or in envy, or in grief, or rage, or pain. It's not normal, because who really wants to go around feeling all of those things when you could be feeling happy and gay? You know what I mean? Why would anybody choose that? I think what we can sort of like determine as a result of this little talk right now is that, well, when you think about it, or certainly what I've thought about it, is that, one, you could almost sort of understand in many ways about why people would want, would be willing to, showcase to the world about how far we've come, and how liberal and open and, open to many things, and want to show our appreciation, kindness, and the fact that we actually want to get on with people from all walks of life, all over the earth. In fact, there's the reason why it's Black History Month is celebrated very frequently. And I think they even started like celebrating it properly when I first started university, and it was actually a very, very surprising and a very, very nice thing to see, because it was one of those occasions where it was just kind of like, I mean, I've heavily, described the negativeness of my days at university, but when they could, they actually did want to make an effort about setting an example. And I can't say they were wrong for doing it. There was very good reasons for it, because of how we had basically students from all over the world at the university I went to. But while we're here, ladies and gentlemen, there is still one thing I did kind of want to touch upon, because, and it's a very counterintuitive thing, what I'm going to say, because it almost might undermine a lot of the things I might have said in this. But here's something I want you guys to understand, is that whether you agree with anything I said at all throughout this video is one thing, and to be honest, I don't think there are going to be things that people will absolutely agree with me on. Like, for example, the idea of just like packing it in, and we just like sit down and just talk maturity, and we just, there'll be people who might disagree with that, and people might agree with something else. But the interesting thing about this whole thing is of something that happened to me just before I started university. Because I had it in mind actually to like join the LGBT society at university, and I literally did it because I wanted to make new friends and I wanted to learn quite a lot of things because I almost wanted to sort of like incorporate it into what I wanted to do for my studies at university, which aside from, there were loads of things I could have done for it. And, well, let me put it to you like this. About 2 weeks before my first class my induction was about to begin, there was meant to be some kind of like meeting like at a cafe place, and they sent me 2 different addresses. And I went to both and they were not there. So I went to like their chat room on Facebook and asked about what happened because I didn't quite understand. You gave me 2 different places. You told me the times and there was absolutely nobody there. What I received, and unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, this was a while ago, but I remember it clear enough, is that I was met with some of the rudest, the most shocking and language you could possibly expect. And it was the sort of thing that if I could recount it, it would have probably made your jaws drop to the floor. And it literally all started by the fact that I said that I wasn't gay, but I wanted to join their community. And as opposed to literally one of them just gently saying to me that I couldn't because I was straight. I mean, that would have been a little bit problematic in the first place, but we'll come across that bridge in time. Is the fact that nobody said this. They just continue to throw abuse at me, and I was just like kind of left like what exactly had I done? What was it? And well, I ended up leaving after all this, and I think I said something to the tune of, well, I hope you're happy with yourselves, that you've actually driven somebody away, somebody who was more than happy to talk to you and be a good companion to this group. But no, you've made your decision and gone. And I didn't... Jeez, what was so strange about all of this is that I think... they didn't even know that I was straight before we were meant to do this, this meeting at this cafe or whatever the hell this place was. So they just, it was like the impression that I was so hated before I even said before I even met any of them in person, that we can't have that. And I don't understand why or what or how any of this happened. And it was what was even more barbaric is that I had very liberal, very open, and very, very open up, very friendly, relations with people and all like that. And I thought to myself that I would have been I would have got on with this place fantastically, because isn't it something about like, the LGBT community to be open armed and, ready to receive and very, very open and understanding and compassionate? Didn't it seem like that? It seemed like the sort of place where I would have just enjoyed going to. And no, I met with people who were of the complete opposite stamp. And despite all of this, ladies and gentlemen, I still remain very, very opening and welcoming and proud and all of that. In fact, They probably went on and talked a lot about pride, but there was nothing to be proud of in the way they talked about me. Yeah, I'm serious about that. What was there to be proud of in all that? Nothing, as far as I could work out. So that's maybe possibly the reason why I suspect probably there'll be people on both sides, whether they are a part of that community or not, or those who are, homosexual or those who are straight. There'll be plenty of people who probably, on both sides, will probably agree or disagree. But I still don't exactly understand. That's the thing I don't understand about this. Is that, yeah, obviously, I get it. Obviously, not everyone's perfect, and some people are just jerks naturally, no matter who they love or what they want or what flag they own or whatever it may be. But, again, if that's the case, then I'll just keep far away. Apparently, because I'm not gay, I'm not good enough for people like them. It was the attitude I kind of like had for a while, but the idea also surmounted in my mind that it didn't have anything to do about being gay or anything like that. It was just about, those people were absolute jerks, and I would just go and find find better company elsewhere. I never did, by the way, and it was again a part of the reason why those went to hell and back for those years and all that. But yeah, just because I had a bad experience, it did not cause me to change my mind or my attitude about it. It just so happened the only thing it did cement in my mind is that, there were just some people who talk about love but are some of the most spiteful people alive. So just, in my opinion, don't be like that. And yeah, that's all I've got to say about that. So I hope everybody out there enjoys throughout the month of June, and make no mistake, I'm still here, part in principle to agree. And again, not that anybody ever thought about asking me this before, but if you've got anything you want to ask, and I'll be more than keen to respond, then leave all your thoughts and concerns in the comment section down below, and good luck. Good luck indeed.